You're a douche. You are. You're a douche. Look at him. He's looking at himself. So he understands. Don't you, Sam? Sam the Raven. Words are defined, and if you're looking for the definition of a word like domestication, you can find that in something called a dictionary. This is a domestic bird. This is Sam. This is my raven. He's an African hybrid raven, and he's a domesticated bird. He's never had anybody feed him except a human. When he was hatched, he was incubated, and then the breeder fed him, and then the breeder sent him to me at 3 weeks, and then I fed him after that. Most young birds make noise, and that's really one of the main ways that birds communicate is vocally. So ravens are very vocal when they're young. They're similar to pigeons. I tell this to people, like, pigeons are super smart. They really are, and so is the raven. All birds are smart. But if you're thinking about getting one, I'm just saying they can be loud. I mean, listen to Sam go. That at times, a lot of people don't like that. Like, they like the idea of having a raven and everything, but the same goes for cockatoos. People don't realize that they make noise. That's how they communicate. So you can't shut them up, and you have to communicate back with them. That's very important. Now, I'm not saying that the raven makes noise like this. This is when he's very young. This is about a 3-week-old bird, and they'll just constantly make noise. They want attention and they want food. So I'm not saying that adult ravens, like, there's times when Sam's totally quiet. He's sitting by me right now, and he's totally quiet. But, just like any bird, at times they make noise. So keep that in mind. Like, don't get a raven, or don't get a cockatoo, or don't get a pigeon or anything like that. A cockatiel, if you're not going to put up with the noise that it makes, because they all make noise, especially when they're young like this. This is a 3-week-old bird. 3-week-old pigeons are loud too. So if you want a quiet animal, I don't know, even cats will make noise. Just don't get a bird for sure. It's totally domesticated, and it's like having a dog. It's very similar. And if you want to talk about domestication, let's talk about dogs. Dogs were domesticated over 10,000 years ago. The crow was domesticated at some point, and all it has to do to be domesticated is to live among humans and have humans selectively breeding them. That's it. That is the definition of domestication. Now, when you domesticate an animal, they become tamer because they become habituated to humans. So he's not afraid of me. He wouldn't like a stranger, but he's not really afraid of humans. So you don't want to habituate wild animals by giving them food. So you wouldn't want to be feeding wild crows. But he's totally domesticated. Do you understand? I don't think a lot of the people that watch my videos understand that, one, I'm putting out videos for education purposes, and like Sam, millions of dogs every year end up in shelters and get put down. Same thing with crows, cockatoos, parrots. They end up living their whole life in cages. There's only one definition for domestication, and this is a domesticated bird. I mean, words are defined in a dictionary. You can't just sit here and say, well, that's not my definition of domestication. You can't, just because you don't like the definition of the word, change it to your own meaning. You can't do that. And it's absurd. How can an animal that is born not in the wild be wild? It doesn't make any sense. You all sound like idiots when you say that. Seriously, you sound ridiculous. This is a domesticated bird. It was born in captivity. Now, certainly, there's crows that are not domesticated. There's ravens that are not domesticated. Those are ones that live in the wild. Now, I'm going to give you an example of how domestication would take place. we'll use SeaWorld as the example. SeaWorld went and they took whales, orcas from the wild. They brought them in, and those are wild. But when they bred them, after they bred them, the offspring, those are considered domesticated animals because they use selective breeding to decide which whales they were going to breed. That's domestication. That's the definition of domestication. Now there's dogs that are wild. This is true. And there's dogs that are domesticated. There's cats that are wild and there's cats that are domesticated. You can't say, well, one species is now domesticated. Individual animals might be domesticated, but there's always going to be animals that are wild. This is just a fact. I'm just, stop crying, kids. Okay, you're not right. You don't know what you're talking about. It's absurd. Now, when selective breeding takes place, usually there's a taming involved during domestication, and that's because it's easier to work with a tame animal than an animal that's aggressive. So if you were going to breed an animal, you might look for two animals that were sort of calm and friendly. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. This is a domestic bird. This is no different than if somebody has a cockatoo. The cockatoo was raised in captivity, okay? Generally speaking, they're going to be incubated and hand-fed. To hear people say ridiculous things like, you should let it go, he would die. Nobody's ever fed him except a human. He doesn't know how to fend for himself. People do it all the time. They get a pet from a pet store, or they have a dog, and then do you want that? And then they just let it go. Are you understanding that he is not a wild animal? He can't be because he wasn't born in the wild. If an animal is not born in the wild, it cannot be a wild animal. Okay? Another statement from a genius from the internet. This kid said, I didn't know that pigeons could bite. Here, that's Remy, my pigeon. That's what she said. Really? Most animals can bite. Does it have a mouth? Does the animal have a fucking mouth? Then it can bite, kid. See, this is the most ridiculous thing about our society. You don't even realize that animals have mouths, and mouths can be used to bite with. It's absurd. This is Remy. You don't think that she could bite? Are you out of your mind? Look at her. She can bite, all right. What she's doing right there and what I'm doing right there, that's an affirmation. Right, Remy? That's right. She can bite. She has a mouth, doesn't she? She's mean as shit. She doesn't like female humans, do you? No, she didn't like female humans around me. She could bite? Are you kidding me? This is the problem with our society, is that our society is so stupid that kids aren't taught that animals have mouths, you know? And if there's a mouth, you can get bit with it. See the beak? That's a bird's mouth. You don't know that? Yeah. Birds can bite. Most of them do, okay? They're going to interact with you, and you don't have a beak, so you're going to get bit. All right? Grow up. Animals have mouths. You can get bit, okay? Let's see. Does any animal not have a mouth? No! I can't think of one. Yeah, all us animals, we have mouths, right? What are they teaching in school nowadays? You don't know this? Remy, you're awesome. Thank you, baby. She's awesome. What a girl. What a girl. Remy, come here. She's biting me. Do you see that? She was just biting me. The mother of my son Solar was just biting me. Was it her? No, it was kind of like a nice bite. But she could peck me too. She could peck me. Like, she'll wake me up like that. She'll take her beak and she'll, get up, dummy. The sun's up. Get the fuck up. That's what Remy does. Don't you, Remy? She's got a beak. If they have a beak, they have a mouth. All animals have mouths. Wake up. When I do these videos about Sam, that there's always somebody that wants to tell some story about the raven experience, and they're all just stories. Today I heard some kid talking about the raven that he threw apples to, and then some pigeons came, and then finally a raven came, and then the raven started going in his room and scared the crap out of him and his family. It's a made-up story, kid. Ravens don't like apples, okay? Yeah, he would eat an apple, but you're not going to attract a raven by using an apple. And a pigeon doesn't like an apple either. There are always these long, drawn-out stories. It sounds like somebody that's writing a story for 6th grade. It's always something like that. My grandfather had a raven, and it's like this, just ridiculous story. It's just a ridiculous story about how the raven would follow him to work. You know, it's right on the same level as the dog that sleeps on his master's grave. It's bullshit. You're putting out bullshit. It didn't happen, okay? It didn't happen. If you're gonna make up a story, go someplace else and make up a story. I don't want to hear it. Somebody else asked me, or they were saying, "Oh, I'm sure he protects you." Who attacks? No, he's a raven. He's not going to protect me. He's not. He's not going to protect me. It's ridiculous. Here's one for you, lab partners. Plants don't have mouths. They don't eat, except for the Venus flytrap or the pitcher plant. But most plants don't have mouths. And the ones that do, like a Venus flytrap, yeah, that's sort of a bite when it closes its thing, whatever it is. That's a bite. There are a lot of idiots that don't understand what I'm saying when I say that hair does not conduct electricity. It doesn't. It doesn't. Either do feathers, beaks, toenails. It's not like rubbing two objects together and moving some electrons around and creating a static charge. That's not what we're talking about, okay? That's a static charge. You cannot run, voltage through a feather. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. In my next video, I'm going to take one of Sam's feathers that he drops, and I'm going to hook it up and prove my point. I'm going to hook it up to a light, and we'll see if we can power a light using a feather as a piece of wire. It's absurd. It's absurd that some idiot wants to sit here and argue a point with me like this. That's like 7th grade science. It's 7th grade science, and you're arguing this point with an animal guy. One more thing while we're on the subject of fools on the internet. Some idiot was saying, this is how they put it. I'm curious if Sam's wings are clipped. I don't care or anything. I was just curious. And my response was like, I don't give a shit if you care or you don't care. And clearly you don't even understand what clipping wings mean. So I'm gonna define that for everybody too. When you clip a bird's wings, you clip the feathers. It's like cutting your hair. It doesn't hurt the bird. Do you understand that? And like hair, feathers fall out and they're replaced. So you clip feathers so that the bird can't fly a lot while you're getting the bird trained. That's all it is. And then when they molt, they get new feathers. Lab partners, are you starting to understand that you don't know what you're talking about? You don't. You don't understand anything about animals other than like what you've picked up in 3rd grade or 4th grade, wherever you are. Don't get underneath videos and start talking bullshit. You don't know what you're talking about. So shut up. Go ask your mommy what's for dinner, or go take the trash out, or go study. But get off the internet, okay? Get off the internet. Shut your mouth. Look at the back of his head is even bitching. Something else. Somebody was wondering if Sam could see his reflection in this. His reflection? This isn't his reflection. This isn't a mirror. Yes, he can see it. What do you think? You don't think that he can see this? I have the phone. I'm shooting this on a phone, and I'm shooting it so that Sam actually can see it. I don't have it flipped around so that the screen isn't showing. He's looking at the screen. He can see himself. What was that, Sam? What was that? Look at Sam. He looks great with this painting in the background. Look at him. Just to show you how shiny he is. Maybe we could get a close up on an eye. There he is. See, that's pretty cool. He's pretty cool looking. He is. He's fucking bitching. I love him, man. He's my pal. We're friends, even though he attacks me sometimes. But he doesn't really attack me. He just wants to screw around. He doesn't have anybody to screw around with. That's a bird, so he screws him around with me. Meaning, he's a bird. I'm a human. But he sees me as an equal, so he's going to treat me like a bird. So the point of all these videos are you ready to be treated like a bird? By a bird? Because that's what they're going to do. I hope this makes sense. Doesn't that make sense? You can't have a pet and, you know, it's gonna think that it's an equal. He thinks that he's an equal. He's not. So you have to train them. It's like a dog. You have to train them. Sam's been trained. He can do some things. Look at Sam. He's bitching. He's bitching. Now, with all that harsh talk, I do want to say that I do appreciate when people say, oh, I love Sam. You don't really know Sam, but I do appreciate that you like him. I think I'd probably bite if I was having to defend myself and things weren't working out, you know, the way that I wanted them to work out. I'd probably do whatever I had to. I'll fight like a chimp. I'll bite. We all, you know, come on, man. We're animals. Sam's an animal. Remy's an animal. I'm an animal. You're an animal. We're all related by common ancestry, and all us animals have fucking mouths, and we can bite. Grow up. Seriously, grow up. Leave your stupid comments below. That's so Raven. Something about Edgar Allan Poe. Say something about how I look like Edgar Allan Poe. Sam is definitely not going to attack anyone, okay? He's not. One more myth about Sam that I want to clear up. He's over there fucking around. But that somebody said, Sam the Raven, I like, but I don't like that guy. And Sam the Raven's probably smarter than that guy. Really? You think a bird is smarter than a human? Okay? Trust me, Sam is not. All right? But is Sam smarter than a lot of you that are watching this video? Yeah, I think so. I think he's probably smarter than a lot of you. Maybe not that many of you. Maybe, let's say, 10% of the people that'll see this video. I think that Sam the Raven is smarter, maybe if not smarter, more clever, and I would definitely rather hang out with Sam than you. And Sam the Raven is a lot more likable than you. It's the truth. I'd rather hang out with Sam the Raven than you. Are you listening to this? And one other question. Do you know what his beak is made out of? What's his beak made out of? The same thing that his toenails are made out of, and feathers, your fingernails, and hair. Keratin. It's the same material. All right? And one other thing, feathers, beaks, toenails, and hair, they are not conductive. They are not. It's impossible. He can fly, and you can't. There's people on YouTube that have ravens and they're wildlife, and that's totally different than Sam. Sam I bought from a breeder. He was bred in captivity. If you see anybody that is doing YouTube videos with animals that they found on the ground, that's wildlife. And in the United States and Canada, that is illegal for them to have. If you see a baby bird on the ground, you should keep walking, okay? That's why there's multiple eggs. The mortality rate of baby birds is extremely high. So just keep walking. If you have to get involved, then you need to take that bird to an animal rehabilitator. That's the proper thing to do. And if you try and keep it alive, you're probably not going to be able to keep it alive. So you cannot keep wildlife. When you see that baby deer on the ground, which is extremely common, you keep walking, because the mother deer is off feeding, and she leaves the baby deer for about 10 hours while she feeds, and then she comes back. It is not abandoned. All right? You can't find a blue jay, a crow, a raven, any type of bird like that if you're in the United States and Canada, and keep it. In the United States, we have the Migratory Bird Act. You can't do it. And Canada has something that they call, it's different. It's called a different name, but it's the same thing. You need to take the animal to an animal rehabilitator. It's illegal for you to keep a raccoon, anything like that. Do you see people selling raccoons and stuff like that in pet stores? No, because it's illegal. You know, a lot of you all say how much you love Sam. If you love him so much, how come you don't buy a t-shirt with Sam on it? It's an idea.